all ready to go, or?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Isabella.
All right. So, nice. We're here to debate abortion. I'll be moderating this very lightly. I'm gonna have both of you start off. I'll start off with Pepe, giving a short introduction as to his stance on abortion and why. Then we'll have Moose. Then I'll just let you two have at it. That's all I'm gonna say for now.
All right, very cool. I don't know Mr. Moose's justification in terms of abortion. I'm not sure if he's a human rights type abortion or a bodily autonomy type abortion guy, but my general stance is based off two premises. The first one is that human life begins at conception, which is the biogenesis definition of an organism. We can look at that. And the second one is that human rights are an innate part of humanity, which I would cite heteronomously to the Declaration of Independence as evidence for that. And the conclusion here is basically that human rights begin at conception. And then as far as the bodily autonomy argument, I would, obviously linking into the first conclusion, I would say if you're liable for a scenario in which human beings die without certain conditions, and then you fail to satisfy those conditions, you're liable for killing that human being. And I think that pregnant women are liable for a scenario in which a human being will die without certain conditions, and that abortion fails to satisfy those conditions. So abortion, in my view, would be an unjust homicide. And I think that the bodily autonomy argument is a good argument for rights being negative, but I think it's a bad argument for abortion, as well as the argument that certain human beings don't have human rights. So I suppose the only real way to attack the argument would be either to challenge the first premise that human life doesn't begin at conception, or to challenge the second premise that human rights are an innate part of humanity, or I guess to challenge that the premises lead to the conclusion that human rights begin at conception, or to just disregard that entirely and say that women have a right to bodily autonomy, so they can kill human beings regardless of their rights. And so that's basically why I believe what I believe.
Should I give an opening statement or respond? Because
I'd rather you give an opening statement. Then we'll just have responses on and then I'll just go.
All right. Abortion is a safe, healthy, cost-effective way of ending pregnancy. Abortion is effective. It leads to a significant decrease in economic costs. It leads to a significant increase in the mental health and overall safety of women. Legalizing abortion doesn't really seem to make it go down in any way. It only seems to make unsafe abortions more common in our society. And when abortion seems to be made illegal in history, what seems to happen is that economies take a hit. Less women are willing to go out into the workplace and spend money in bars, because if you go out and have sex and you have a baby, there's nothing you can do about it. And making abortion more accessible seems to have a positive impact on the economies and general well-being of the community, not only women, because it allows for more economic development and more economic flow-through of money into people. That's my understanding. Very sure. All right. So,
okay, cool. So do we just back and forth now, or what do we? What's this?
Back and forth. Let's back and forth. So wait. So can I start on this one, because I have a
sure.
issue to bring up. All right. So do you believe babies are subject to the same human rights that like you and I would be?
Yes. Yeah. Human rights are an innate part of humanity. Yeah.
All right. So would you in turn imprison a pregnant woman for like a crime, any crime?
Would I imprison a pregnant woman for any crime? Like if she committed a crime, would I imprison her?
Yes.
Yeah, I would send a pregnant woman to jail if she committed a crime that warranted it.
Okay, so you send a woman to jail if you committed a crime. All right. So is that not unjustifiably imprisoning a baby?
No, because
why not?
The baby's already in a prison. It's the womb, so the baby doesn't really go anywhere. The baby's just kind of in the womb.
Would you say you're imprisoning someone who needs to be on life support?
I mean, yeah, you could say it's a form of life support, sure.
Okay, well then, aren't you unjustly imprisoning a baby if you're sending it to prison without doing any crime?
Well, this doesn't seem like an argument for against abortion or for abortion. More is it just is like a philosophical question. But I think
Well,
the answer is
it's
just
a philosophical moral question because you seem to believe that babies are subject to the same morality as you and I would be. However, you seem to draw the line at freedom of movement or freedom of to not be imprisoned.
Well, they just literally can't move. So like whether or not you put them in a certain room,
Yeah, but like there's tons of people who just literally cannot move, right? And we still allow them not to be imprisoned.
Sure, but you're defining prison here as like a punitive building that you go to where your movement is restricted, you only get certain food. The baby isn't doing any of that. The baby arguably isn't even in prison. Right? The baby's in the womb.
The baby's in the womb, and if and doesn't like the baby just get kicked back from like the mother's eating?
Doesn't the baby sorry, what?
Wait, doesn't the baby get like kicked back from the mother's eating? They can only have certain foods while in prison.
Kickback, like the baby's
like the baby like
well-being will be harmed because it's not getting nutrients.
Well, it's not getting the proper nutrients in prison.
Yeah, then the baby should get proper nutrients. Sure, I agree with you.
All right, cool.
I don't think that's a good argument for killing the baby, though.
Well, no, the thing is, I don't believe you should kill the baby while in prison because I don't believe babies are subject to the same rights that we are. But
okay, cool.
So yeah, but aren't you taking away the rights of the baby if it's going to prison? Like you're taking away some of its rights of freedom and association, right?
Which rights? Like what? Who can't the baby associate with because the mother's in prison?
Well, association is a broad term. It largely just means like movement, I believe. But yeah, no, you're taking away some of its like access to like the world.
Well, I suppose you could say that the mother is technically taking away rights because the mother is being brought into this prison because of decisions that the mother assumably made. But parents already can consent on behalf of their children, so it's not kind of like how it's not literally imprisonment for me to ground my son and say, hey, you can't leave home. I would say it's not imprisonment for the woman to,
I get that, but like still, like you're restricting the baby's rights, right? You're in a way, right?
No,
you're not at all restricting the baby's rights.
I don't think arresting and imprisoning a pregnant woman for crimes is restricting a baby's rights.
Do you believe that there are things that a fetus might do in prison or things they might do while not in prison that they may not have access to in prison?
Not really.
Nothing.
Still in the womb.
You can't think of a single thing that a baby might have access to inside prison versus outside.
I don't think in utero babies have access to anything except like an umbilical cord and some fluid.
I'm sure they have access to certain supports that they wouldn't have, like like the microphones you put on the belly and shit like that.
Yeah, sure.
So you meant that they have access to things that they would not have access to in prison.
Well, it sounds like an equivocation of access because, like, if I ban you from having a gun, then you can't access a gun, and that's a violation of your Second Amendment. But if I just don't buy you a gun and you don't have money, that's not me blocking access in the same way.
But you probably would not have access to that in prison, no?
Well, sure, but like the poor mother also wouldn't have access to something like that. So you could argue by the same token, not giving a poor woman money is taking away her baby's access to something. When I don't think that's the case. I think the mother just can't provide what she can't provide, and it is what it is.
Yeah,
I don't think
that
proves the baby doesn't have rights.
That's something you probably could not provide in prison, right?
Well, let's say for the sake of the argument, I just grant you all this, and I say, sure, it is taking away the baby's rights, and we should do away with it. Does that prove anything for your argument?
Well, it does prove something, which means that you treat the rights that a baby is given as arbitrary. You say that a baby is willing.
Well, no, I would just think we would amend the laws so that they would treat the rights of the baby as equal to the rights of all other human beings because they.
Wait, you would just not like allow like babies to be in prison?
Well, if you could actually demonstrate to me that this was a violation of the baby's rights to not have like a microphone or something in prison, then I would say just.
What I'm trying to demonstrate is that it's. Sorry.
Okay, little bit of
cut that part out. Cut that part out. Well, wait. Sorry. Are we going back to it not being granted in this point?
Well, no, I'm just saying, like, I could grant it to you if you wanted to. I don't think it'll prove anything, because I would just say, then let's
Well,
be
what it would
consistent and
prove
let's
is
have some
that
sort of law that says the baby has to have the same rights. So if it actually is blocking
well,
the baby's rights, I
but
don't
the
think you've demonstrated that.
baby objective. Wait, sorry. Wait. Then, let me go back to the point and say that baby would objectively have less rights, as the mother would have less movement or less places to hypothetically be, which could in theory give a baby a better scenario to develop in, or a fetus a better scenario to develop in.
No, I don't think the ability of the mother is at all a right of the baby. I think the mother, whatever the mother does, is totally fine in terms of the rights of the children.
Do you believe like a place a parent is could be a part in developing the baby? Like, do you believe like a location could be?
Wait, do I think that it plays an impact on developing the baby? Sure.
So you would acknowledge that, like, I don't know, like a nicer neighborhood with like cleaner air would be a better place to have a fetus develop.
Sure, but I think that if you're against food stamps, then you're not infringing on the rights of babies to live in a neighborhood with like cleaner air and better, healthier food.
Well, I'm not against food stamps, so.
Well, sure, I understand, but I'm just saying somebody who wouldn't be actively advocating against the rights of babies, because the rights are only like direct things. You can't indirectly take some rights.
What you were doing, what you're doing if you're putting a baby in a prison. What are you doing if you're putting a baby in a prison? Places with fairly low air quality most of the time, because they handle production sometimes. What you're doing is you are inherently
the woman would be, yeah.
Well, yeah, but you are forcing that baby, who you admit has the same rights as a human, to live in an area with worse air quality, and there's nothing they can really do about it, right?
The woman would be forcing the baby. Yes.
The woman be forcing the baby?
Yes.
Would you like arrest the woman? Isn't that a crime to force one? Wait, isn't it like kidnapping to like force someone to live in like a area against like the will?
If it constitutes
wait, hold up.
objective harm, yeah. But
the woman is not. The woman. But it can constitute objective harm. Prisons have generally lower air quality. It can't.
No, because parents are capable of consenting on behalf of their children for everything that doesn't constitute significant objective harm. So even if something is harmful, like giving my kid donuts is harmful, but I can do it because I'm a parent. So you would have to prove something significantly objectively harmful, like having sex or giving your kid copious amounts of alcohol, in order to say that this is child abuse. Otherwise, it's just a bad parenting decision. It's a bad parenting decision to take your kid into prison. But pregnant women who get arrested do it.
Wait. So another negative, another thing that we would not allow parents to do when we constitute as abuse would be the placing of a child in bad circumstances. No.
Yeah, depending on the circumstance. Yeah.
So would you acknowledge one of the places with like the highest numbers of assaults a year, that being a prison would be a bad place to put a child in?
I mean, maybe, perhaps, but that's more of a critique of the prison system than of, say, the decisions.
Well, I'm not advocating for the prison system. I'm advocating for the fact that you are granting your arbitrary axioms to a baby.
Sure, but they're not arbitrary is the thing, because I'm being perfectly consistent. I would say, like, yeah, we need to protect pregnant women who are in prison more than the average woman, because if they get hit in the stomach, that's a homicide rather than a bruise.
But what you are doing is that you are like ignoring certain factors that would lead you to believe that something else is a homicide, or something else is a violation of rights.
Well, I'm not ignoring them. I'm granting you them.
Are you granting?
Like, I assume the conclusion is like human beings, human rights don't begin at conception, because here's an unborn human being and you're not willing to grant them all the same human rights. But I'm telling you, I am. If you can demonstrate that it's a violation of human rights, then I'll say, sure, let's change the rule so that it is consistent. So I don't think you're going to get me to.
Wait. Sure. Well, let me just try one more time. But like, you've like, so you believe that the state imprisoning a baby inside of a mother is not a violation of that baby, but if a mother insisted on bringing her child into prison, that would be a violation of that child's right?
No, I'm suggesting that when a state imprisons a pregnant woman, they're not imprisoning the child; they're imprisoning the pregnant woman, and what happens to the child is the result of the mother. So if we have any problem,
could a child, could like a mother
examine whether or not the mother has a right to do the thing. That's what I'm
Wait,
saying.
if a mother just like walked into a prison like holding her like 3-year-old child by her hand, would that be
Well,
fine?
of course not. The government would take that child and relocate it to a place where the child is less happy, presumably. Otherwise, the child would still be in its home. And then the child would have less freedom of movement. And we don't say that when a father gets arrested and the kid is taken into protective custody, that kid's freedom of movement is being deprived. We just say, oh, that father made a bad decision, and we're not going to put the kid in jail with him. So we do what we have to do.
All right. So why would you make it? So why do you accept a baby to be with that?
Because we can't physically take the baby out.
All right. So wait. It's just like a can. Like we don't usually just like cut human rights off of what we can do. We usually just automatically accept. Like if like we don't like say like, oh, a person who's a mute person can't have freedom of speech because they can't talk. Like would we not say a baby can't have freedom of speech because they can't move?
Well, it has the freedom. It just can't exercise the freedom, right? Like I have a right to bear arms, but if I don't have money, I can't buy a gun. I'm out of luck.
Yeah, but we still accept that. So what you would be saying is that like, So wait, you're saying that that human rights could end where they cease to be exercisable?
I wouldn't say that they end. I'm just saying you can't exercise them if you can't exercise them.
Yeah, but that's inherently like saying that they end at that point.
Well, so just to clarify, so we're on the same page with human rights. When I say human rights, I mean a negative constraint on authority that it can't take this thing from me. That's what I mean when I say human rights. So like when I say you have a right to a gun, I don't mean the government has to buy you a gun. Like Bernie Sanders likes to say we have a right to healthcare. I think that's just a logical fallacy. So when I'm saying that you have a right to life or you have a right to freedom of movement, I don't mean that somebody has to help you move around. I just mean that if somebody took this from you, then it would be in trouble because they're not allowed to do that. But if your legs are broken, you're not going to be moving. That doesn't mean you don't have freedom of movement.
Well, I'm still kind of confused why that doesn't all apply to a fetus.
It does, though.
But what I'm confused about here is what you're saying is it does all apply to a fetus, but the problem is that a fetus can't move, so it can't really access most of those rights, right? It can't speak, so it can't access freedom of speech. It can't express itself, so it can't access freedom of expression. It can't move, so it can't access freedom of movement. So we're creating classes really kind of devoid of those general characteristics of which we would describe a human to have rights. That what we're basically saying is that we can suspend its rights based on convenience for our society.
No,
right?
I've been
Because
very
if
clear
we're
about
suspending,
what I'm saying. I'm saying that if you can't exercise your rights, you can't exercise your rights. That doesn't mean you don't have them. Your rights don't get suspended.
I know, but we are saying that we would hypothetically suspend some of those rights, that being the freedom of movement, which you've kind of said would be a advocate, like if you grant me that it would be that a baby would have a moral right to not be imprisoned. But you're kind of granting me that we could suspend human rights for the convenience of society.
I didn't say that I would grant you that we can suspend the human rights. I said I would grant you.
You said that didn't you grant me that it would be a human rights violation to imprison a baby?
Yeah, I was saying let's assume that it is. I mean, I don't think it is. Obviously, I don't think putting a pregnant woman to jail is imprisoning the baby. The baby's still in the womb. That's where it was 5 seconds ago. But I would say let's grant that it is. Then we would make some sort of adjustment so that the baby still has its rights. Basically.
Wait, if someone throws you in a box and then they throw you in a junkyard near, if they put you in a trash compactor line, are they not moving your space where you are?
Yeah, sure. They put me in a box and then they put me in the junkyard.
They put you in a trash compactor line, like that gets squished, or inside of a trash compactor, let's say.
Yeah, which is illegal. Yes.
Wait, sure.
If somebody put me in a trash compactor, that would be my first issue.
I'm not advocating for that, of course, but like
that's good.
If you did that, would that not be a?
I would be crushed if somebody did that to me.
Yes, I know, but would that not be changing where you are?
Yeah, sure, but a trash compactor isn't a woman, So,
No,
like,
I'm saying the box.
when my mom walked me
the
around in the
box in
womb,
this
she wasn't
metaphor-
constantly violating my freedom of movement because she was taking me places.
Wait, no,
She
no,
just
the,
has
the
the right to
box.
take me places.
Wait, hold on. The box would be the woman here. The trash compactor would be the prison. If I throw
The
you
trash
in a box,
compactor would be in
your
prison?
box. Yeah.
Boxes don't have requisite intent. They don't move
Oh
people
no,
around.
I know. But if someone throws you in a box and then throws you into a trash compactor, would that be moving you?
Yeah, it would be moving me. Sure. And I would agree
Alright,
with you.
so
Yeah,
why
when bringing water on the
is
moving.
it? All right, so why did you say that when a society throws a woman in prison, that's not moving the baby?
Well, it is, but it's the woman moving the baby. The woman takes the baby into prison, and the woman has a right to move the baby wherever she wants because it's her baby.
Well, no, she doesn't. We force the woman to go into prison.
Yeah, we forced the woman to go to prison, and she brought the baby with because she physically cannot, and she has that right to bring her baby with her.
Oh, I agree, but again, what I'm not understanding here is that you are trying to say that the woman has both the right to sorry, has both the right to move the baby wherever she pleases, and then also that if the state moves the baby with her, that's not a violation of rights, just
So-
because the baby can't move.
If a mother worked for a prison, let's say, and she had a 4-year-old son, and she wanted to bring her son with her to prison for 5 minutes and have him sit on her lap while she filed out some paperwork in like one of the back rooms, then she technically brought that kid into prison. There's nothing wrong with doing
Well,
that
no, but
because
the thing is, the state isn't forcing her outside of the soft forcing of capitalism.
I understand, but even if the state compelled the mother to do something with her baby, the mother's not violating the child's rights, and the state's not violating the mother's rights, presumably. So there's no real way
What
to
do you
say
mean?
that the state's violating.
Wait,
Well, sure, parents can consent on behalf of their children. Your mom can decide if she's gonna, lock you in the basement or not. As a kid.
The thing is, the parent cannot possibly consent in this regard. There is no way for the parent to either say, no, I just don't want the baby to come with me, or I don't like, or like, yeah, there's no way for the parent to consent or not consent in this regard. There's no way of saying, oh yeah, let's just put.
Of course, but I'm doing a little bit of logical algebra. I'm saying the mother's not violating the child's rights, and the state's not violating the mother's rights, and the child moves.
Wait, isn't the state violating the mother's rights to the consent on where her child is going? Like,
wait, what? Are you asking if the state is violating the mother's rights to decide where the child goes?
yeah,
No,
why not?
because she's just decided to take the child with her because that's literally her only choice.
What if she doesn't? What if she says, I don't want to take the child with me?
Well, then tough luck. She committed a crime.
All right, so then are you not willing to suspend someone's rights for convenience for society?
Yeah, I'm willing to suspend the mother's rights, or I guess nullify would be the more legally accurate word. If she commits a crime, her rights are nullified, sure.
Her rights, but is that not, okay. So you're suspending the mother's rights for convenience for society, but not the baby's, because the baby has to go with the mother?
No, not the baby. The baby's movement is just a consequence of what's happening to the mother. Sort of like if you arrested a single mother, the baby wouldn't be able to just live at home by himself. He would have to go with somebody else. That's not the state depriving the baby of right to movement, because the mother is the one.
Wait. If the mother wanted the baby to live alone, wouldn't you just say that that's the state depriving the baby of right?
Well, let's say it's a 4-year-old baby, or not a baby, a toddler. That toddler can't live alone.
Well, no. But like, what if the mom wants it to?
Well, if the mom wanted it to, that would be significantly objectively harmful, and the state would seize it.
Wait. Is it not significantly objectively harmful to have a baby live in a violence-rich, poor air quality environment? Is that not like significantly harmful?
Well, we're assuming it's not, and I already granted you that if it was significantly objectively harmful, we would need to amend the prison system so that it's not.
All right. So you're.
I'm assuming that it's not. That's one of the givens of the hypothetical.
Well, in this hypothetical, I'm talking about our society. Of course, in my ideal society, of course, we would amend the prison system. But if we're talking about in the grounds of our society, then would you not say that?
Well, I mean, you'd need to show me that it is, and then I would agree with you and say, all right, let's change it then.
It's objectively harmful for mothers to keep a baby in prison?
That it's significantly objectively harmful. Yeah, like you need to show that prison food is egregiously bad for fetal development, or that like there's a very high chance she'll get hit in the stomach, or something like that. and I'd need to say, okay, cool. Well, then let's make rules where pregnant women get their own little room, and maybe they get healthier food or something.
All right, so yeah, you would admit that if in our society, if it's feasibly provable that having having a mother in a bad environment, not being in prison, could negatively impact the baby's development, then that would be a suspension of its rights?
Significantly negatively impact, yeah, sure.
Significantly negatively impact. All right, so...
Yeah, and then we would need to amend it so that it's not happening. My
right,
conclusion wouldn't be therefore babies must not have.
We're not talking about we're not talking about that. We're talking about in our current society. If I could prove that, would you still, in our current society, arrest pregnant women for doing crimes?
Sure, yeah, and I would advocate that we change the system so that we're not arresting them into a scenario that's significantly objectively harmful.
All right, so wait. In this scenario, you're saying that I just woke up. So,
well, I assume that the implication is that if we're not treating babies the same as adults, so they don't have the same human rights. But I'm literally just saying, like, let's treat them the same.
No, I know. Wait, so, you were saying let's treat them the same, but in this situation in our society, having them be in the same general conditions of our society in which we live. Them being in these situations, if I can prove this, them being in these situations would make it so you're suspending their human rights.
Can you repeat the last 5 words?
Yeah, sure. You would be suspending their human rights in this situation in our society.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, then it would be a violation of the human rights. Yeah, I wouldn't say suspending. I would say it's a violation.
All right, violating. All right.
Yes.
Okay, cool. So, prisons.
Yeah, and I just want to point out I feel like this is a little bit of a moot point because I gave a deductive syllogism for why human rights begin at conception, and so it kind of seems like you're only sort of inductively arguing.
I'm pretty sure the deductive syllogism of why you gave included Genesis.
Biogenesis, yeah, the law of biogenesis. It's that organisms don't change biological classification mid-development.
What is biogenesis? Could you describe that?
The law of biogenesis is in part that is that organisms don't change biological classification mid-development. It's from Louis Pasteur. He invented pasteurization, but it's basically a thwart of abiogenesis or spontaneous generation, where they believe stuff like flies and maggots would just appear on meat. And he concluded actually organisms have to come from their own organism, and they don't change biological classification. So that's half of the proof, because if an organism's life begins at conception, which it does, that's the definition of an organism, and organisms don't change biological classification, then that organism is a human from conception, and we can see this in biology.
To be perfectly honest, I don't really care about morality in this debate. What's more interesting to me is rights and objective, evidence to the efficacy or inefficacy of abortion, in doing all sorts of things like improving bodily autonomy and income generally. So even if I grant you in turn that the only problem with my scenario is that we have to amend the prison system, then I can still say that abortion is good even if it's immoral. There's still moral qualms with not having, or there's still physical qualms with not having abortion. Did you know it's actually good for economies to allow abortion? It significantly damages them.
I wasn't talking about whether or not it was a moral good or not. I was suggesting as an unjustified homicide. Sure, because human life is consumption and human beings possess innate rights.
Why is that bad?
Why is that bad? Why is an unjust homicide bad?
Yeah, sure.
Well, you can make your own society in which unjust homicides are good or bad. I'm just saying that it's an unjust homicide. In the United States, if you shot somebody,
is your only ethical? Well, here in the United States, you would admit that it's unjust to keep women in prison with babies in it. So if we're saying right here and now, it's
well, I granted you, if it was unjust, then it would be unjust. But but that was your premise. I don't agree with that. I don't think we demonstrated that.
All right, so wait, what would justifiable mean? What would a justifiable abortion be?
What would a justifiable abortion be?
Yeah.
Well, I assume at this point you're expanding the definition of abortion beyond just elective abortions, so stuff like completing a miscarriage, or removing
Well, no,
an
what I mean
stuff like that would be acceptable.
Would you say that any baby killing pill would be like reasonable here?
No, I don't think baby killing pills are good. I'm generally against.
If it's a threat to the mother's life, you'd be fine with it.
Well, you'd need to show me a scenario in which a baby killing pill will save a woman's life, because I so far know zero.
Like you don't think that there are like situations in which that having a baby will kill a woman? Because I can bring some up, I think.
Sure. I mean, like, I have a friend who's an ex-abortion doctor, and I can tell you, anecdotally that I've heard that there are no scenarios in which elective abortion will save a woman's life. So you need to give me some sort of example. I mean, I can find you people who will say that. That's not my argument. That's just that, like, that's not a statistic I'm giving you. I'm just saying, like, I don't see what sort of hypothetical scenario you would give me. If you're talking about stuff like completing a miscarriage or removing an ectopic pregnancy, then I'm fine with that, but I wouldn't define that as abortion. If you wanted to expand the definition.
Abortions do sometimes save a woman's life.
Yeah, sure. Let's say hypothetically it could. Like, let's say hypothetically.
It will not hypothetically, it can. There's a USA Today article on it. Abortions are sometimes needed to save lives of health of pregnant women. Several medical experts on Friday, counting comments that were made, then partially retracted. Illinois Representative Joe Walsh, who said that there were no such thing.
Okay, and like, give me an example. Which abortion procedure are we talking about? Is this dilation evacuation, dilation extraction, vacuum aspiration, or are we talking about chemical?
Well, he says there are very rare circumstances, but still.
Of course, yeah. But I often hear people equivocating stuff like completing a miscarriage, which they use D&E for sometimes, as like, oh, well, this is to save the woman's life because she'll get sepsis if you leave a dead baby in her. But that's not an abortion.
Nothing here says anything about miscarriages.
Okay, well, yeah, sure. That's why I'm asking you what the type of thing is. But it's also a bit of a moot point because I'm saying that hypothetically, if it existed, then I'd be for it. But I haven't heard of it.
You'd be for it? All right.
Yeah, sure. I don't. So if the baby's going to die or the mother's going to die, then we can kill the baby. I'm totally fine with that. Right. It seems like just normal logic to me.
All right, cool. So there are circumstances in which abortion should be fine. Would be fine?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Elective abortion.
All right. So what if it is a measurable harm to society to disallow abortion? Is that a point in which abortion would be fine?
A measurable harm to society? I don't think human rights are based on harm to society.
You don't think?
You can make an argument that slavery is good for society because we get free cotton. I still wouldn't be for it.
Well, I would advocate that what's best for society is what's best for every human.
Sure. Well, I'm not citing to what you believe. I'm citing to the heteronomous standard in the United States, which is that human beings possess innate rights.
All right. So, but the way I designate human rights is through a utilitarian method of what's best for everybody, right? I don't care what is like technically moral or not. Like, and
I understand.
Yeah. And through
and I think utilitarianism is logically contradicting, but I also think it's a moot point because I'm saying this is the standard of human rights in this country and generally the first world standard of human rights. And so, I mean, if you want to give me an argument for why we should replace the idea that all human beings possess innate rights and we should replace it with utilitarianism,
we already.
But it sounds like the burden of proof is on you because I'm just citing to the standard.
Well, we already accept that not all humans are like have innate rights. You're pro death penalty, right?
Sure. Yes, I'm pro death penalty, and death penalty doesn't contradict my standard.
Well, no, but you are accepting that some humans are not deserving of the same human rights, right?
No, the human rights are inalienable, but they can be nullified by other things.
All right, but that's accepting that some are not, in access to the same human rights that you and I are.
Well, no. So an example of nullifying human rights would be if you, let's say, if there's a person drowning, the classic, you got to throw them a life preserver, but you don't have to hold on to the other end argument. Or say the famous violinist, where you don't have to save somebody's life because you have a right to your own bodily autonomy. But the distinction is, if you push somebody into the pool and now they're drowning and it's your fault, and you don't save them, then you're guilty for manslaughter. So that would be an example of when we say the person's right to bodily autonomy is nullified because they still have the right to bodily autonomy. There's no cosmic governmental force that's forcing them to jump in the pool and save them. But if they don't, they're going to jail for manslaughter. So that would be an example of nullifying human rights, where the rights are still there. It's just sort of irrelevant to the question of, are you going to be screwed or not?
I see. Okay, so
and that is also my argument for against bodily autonomy, but it doesn't seem like you're going that way. It seems like a human rights argument.
All right. I think that that my points here have been made kind of moot, because if you say that no matter how good something is, it can always be overturned by something that is no matter how good something is, it doesn't matter, because there's always going to be a points that someone can, there's always a point at which human rights supersede goodness. Then I guess that you've
well, I mean, it sounds like you're importing the idea that certain things are good without really, like, I didn't grant you that utilitarian.
I can prove it. I have evidence on it.
Okay, well, I mean, it seems like the only real way that you could attack my argument would be to suggest that you have a better standard of human rights, and we should replace the current standard with that.
Yeah, that's what I was getting to. That's what I was getting to.
Okay, yeah, we can do that then.
So the better standard of human rights. So you don't believe that everyone is deserving of healthcare, right?
I believe that everybody has them innately. Yeah, as part of humanity.
Healthcare, not rights. Healthcare.
Oh, healthcare? Well, I think it's a logical contradiction to say that people have a right to healthcare, as I stated before, because human rights are negative. It's just what the government can't take from you.
Wait, human rights are only human rights are only negative to the government?
They're only negative.
That seems like
there's no positive human rights.
There's no positive human rights? So
no, because positive human rights are a logical contradiction.
Wait. Is the right to bear arms not a positive human right? It's not saying the government can't take guns away from you. It's saying It's saying that you have the right to get arms.
No, a positive human right would mean that you have to give it to me, and a negative human right is you can't take it from me. That's the old "don't tread on me." That's why rights are negative.
All right, wait. So wait. Are you saying that the right to bear arms is only that the government can't take it from you?
Yeah, the government can't stop me from keeping and bearing arms. That's what it means. The government doesn't have to give me guns. Kind of like the government doesn't have to give me free healthcare, even if I did have a right to healthcare, hypothetically.
All right. So wait. So the only rights that are noble are the ones that are negative ones from the government.
Well, just rights are negative by definition.
Rights are only negative. All right. So
yeah, rights are negative.
So there's no such thing as So even like in a hypothetical society where there was something that was needed to survive by everyone, like the government would not be forced to permit you anything at all. Like even if there was like an 100% thing that that was needed to that everyone needed to survive.
Yeah, sure. Like let's say there was
a society without air.
Eat food hypothetically, and the government, we can't just make the government give us free food. Yeah, that's part of it. I think you have a right to have.
What if there's a society? What if there was a society where there was no air, right? And the only way you could get air is by getting it bottled.
Okay. So made up.
A society was formed around supplying air to everyone. In that society, would air be necessary?
You're starting with the premise of tyranny, and then you're asking how can we get less tyrannical? And in that case, then yes, giving free air to people would be less tyrannical. But the least tyrannical thing would be to not have a government.
How about in a society? How about a society which was formed around around distributing food to people? In that society, will we acknowledge that food is necessary?
Well, yeah, food is necessary in all societies, I assume.
All right. So would you not say that it's impeding upon people's freedoms to not have the access to food?
No, I wouldn't say that.
No. So so the freedom not to die supersedes the freedom to not be tyrannically. Sorry, the freedom not to die supersedes the freedom to the freedom not to die does not supersede the freedom of morality of negative rights being the standard.
Well, of course, yeah, and this is one of the biggest arguments for abortion. Actually, is the old famous violinist argument, where you're tied to a violinist, and the question is, You know, he needs your body to sustain his own life, but you didn't consent to him being there. Do you have the right to just unhook it and let him die? And the answer is yes, because his right to life is a negative right. He can't be killed, but that doesn't mean that you have to sustain.
But don't babies like negatively affect the mother in some ways?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, they drain resources. They do that after they're born too. You still can't kill them.
Yeah, but you can get rid of them after they're born. There's nothing
Yeah, you
stopping
can. Yeah,
from,
you can transfer them to somebody else who will take care of them. Yeah, you can't just
yeah,
like
but
leave them on yourself.
when they're in you, they're essentially a parasite now.
Well, they're not a parasite. No.
Why not?
Well, biologically, parasitism is two distinct organisms, and it's a form of symbiosis in which one is harmed and the other is benefited. And biologically,
Yeah,
reproducing
no,
is
yeah, no, 100%.
objective purpose of an
100%.
organism.
Are there any benefits of having
Yeah,
having
reproducing
babies?
is biologically
Are-
objectively the purpose of an organism.
Well, you can't just say that's you can't just say it's good because it's the purpose of an organism. Some
Well, you're
purposes-
talking about biological definition when you say that it's a parasite, and biologically, the definition of good for an organism is reproducing. So biologically, they're not a parasite.
I don't think reproducing is always a good for an organism.
Well, biologically,
don't tons of species just die after they reproduce?
well, sure, but when we're studying biology, we say the good thing of this organism. Like when we say this is benefited and this is harmed, we say that things that help this thing reproduce are the benefit, and things that hurt that are harm. Like that's how we quantify it.
Not in all circumstances, I don't think.
Sure, yeah. If we were talking about a different circumstance like politics, we might say harm and benefit are different. But if we're defining it in terms of biology, which is what parasitism
not
is,
in all biological circumstances. Like I can like if there's like a bunch of species and they're like in an area that's like getting polluted and they can't reproduce for one cycle, but they all move to a different area where they won't all die. Is that not like a good for the society?
yeah, sure. I guess if you could establish that, then yeah, but it still wouldn't really solve the other half of the problem, which is that parasitism requires two distinct organisms.
So two different organisms from different species?
Yes, symbiosis is a relationship between two different organisms, so they can't be the same exact biological categorization. They would have to be different. Now, if you were making an argument that it's like a parasite, or because it's draining your resources, then that's a better argument. But I think that makes even less of a point because that just gets worse after they're born. Like they stop costing you food and they start costing you more food.
No,
right?
but the thing is, after you're born, it's a choice to keep that child with you, I think, right?
Well, sure, yeah. It's not a choice to keep it alive, but it is a choice for you to be the one sustaining them. I agree with that.
Yeah, but you can't make that choice while the baby's in you, right?
You're physically incapable, yes. Yes, sort of like if you got snowed in or something.
There's a way.
Incapable of taking the baby to somebody else. That doesn't mean you can just let the baby start.
But like.
Yeah, because we keep going.
Wait. You're not mandated to jump in a pool. You're not mandated to jump in a pool if someone is drowning in there. Why are you mandated to keep the baby alive if you're both snowed in?
Well, that goes to the other half of that argument that I made. If you push them in the pool, then you are obligated to keep them alive. So a woman is liable for the scenario in which somebody will die without certain conditions. So if the woman
wait. In that situation, is it manslaughter if a miscarriage happens? Uncompelled?
Is a miscarriage manslaughter? No.
Yeah.
Manslaughter requires at least some sort of requisite intent, and it requires.
It doesn't. This is a legal misunderstanding. There's a difference between compelled manslaughter and uncompelled manslaughter. Uncompelled manslaughter is when your actions lead to someone dying, whether or not you had any sort of intent with it. The sentence.
Sure, but you would need the intent to be negligent. That's the point. Is you need some sort of negligence.
You intent to be negligent.
Yeah, like if I sneezed and an old guy got COVID and died, that's not manslaughter.
Seeing someone drown in a pool and walking by not negligent?
No, that's a different form of negligence. Negligence is some sort of action that you're doing that causes something to happen. Like driving really fast is a form of negligence in a school zone, let's say.
Wait. Driving really fast is a form of negligence. So
if I'm driving recklessly in a school zone and I hit a kid and kill him,
having a baby with an underlying mental condition that could hypothetically be checked, but you're not, but you don't really have the money or resources to do so, is like, which is where most miscarriages are foreseeable. You just have to have like a bunch of very expensive tests, and to suss out your biology and to what.
Well, beyond a certain point, they are sure. But a lot of zygotes just die.
All right, yeah. So if hypothetically you had one of those conditions that you could check for, but you did not, would that be, generally a, yeah? If you had one of those conditions and you did not check for them, would that be manslaughter?
I don't think that would constitute negligence to not go and check if you have
To
conditions.
not check?
Mm.
So wait, if you're in a restaurant and you go and you don't check if there's sulfur in one of your food, like some of your food, or cyanide in it, and you serve it to someone, is that negligence?
No,
And they
because it's
die?
not reasonable to assume that food just randomly has cyanide in it. So that's why waitresses don't check if there's cyanide in each individual plate that they serve you.
Or sorry, if you take an order and it says, and it's like an order of something like that, like has trace amounts of cyanide in it. And
Yeah,
you
we
don't,
could say
like,
if it's reasonable
like, not
that
like
there
apples,
is, then yeah, it would be
but, like,
negligence.
all right, but
So
isn't
yeah,
it,
if it was
wait,
reasonable
how
to believe,
many miscarriages happen per year? Wait, give me a second.
how many miscarriages happen
Yeah.
per year? What do you mean?
Yeah. What
I don't
percentage of pregnancies is miscarriages?
I don't know, a good amount. Yeah, and a lot of them are just natural causes.
So isn't it reasonable to assume that a miscarriage might happen?
Well, sure. I think
5% of all
though the
pregnancies
parallel
are
you're trying to make is,
miscarriages.
I think the parallel you're trying to make is it reasonable to assume that you won't have a miscarriage or that you don't have some sort of condition that increases your chance?
Or that you won't have a miscarriage. Like 10 to 15% of pregnancies are miscarriages.
Right. Sure.
So would you say that? So in that scenario, would it not be reasonable to assume you're having a miscarriage?
Well, yeah, sure. I would say it's reasonable to assume that you may have a miscarriage. Yeah.
All right. So
I mean,
you might have a miscarriage. So
it's not extraordinarily common, but yeah.
If you know all that data and you still have a baby and it has a miscarriage, is that not negligence?
No.
No. Why not?
No, because it didn't die because of any sort of. I mean, it didn't die because of any sort of negligence on your part. Like having a baby isn't negligence.
Having a baby.
You could argue if you had some serious medical condition that killed babies inside of you, then maybe that would be negligence. But just having a baby isn't negligence.
Wait. Yes. If you have a thing, or if you have like a condition that leads you to there's a MayoClinic.org thing that says that a cause of abortion can be not abortion, a cause of miscarriages can be abnormal genes or chromosomes. So if you had that, if you had one of those conditions and you didn't know and you still had a baby, would that be negligence?
Well, if you didn't know it, by definition, wouldn't be negligence. But if you knew,
well, no,
then
that'd be what's called uncompelled manslaughter.
Well, uncompelled manslaughter still requires negligence, and I don't think not knowing something.
Yeah, but all right, but like, how about not checking?
Wait, if you didn't check to see if you had that condition, it's not reasonable to assume that you would have that condition. I assume, right?
Well, if 10 to 15% of pregnancies result in, sorry, is it not reasonable to check if, like, well, there's tons of things that are, generally reasonable to check. We check anyway. Like, we check usually if, like, road signs have, like, are misspelled, right? And if someone isn't that good at reading English and they read a road sign wrong, then they might, like, veer off the road and kill a child, and that would be, and that could be argued that it's not that person's fault because the road sign was spelled wrong.
Yeah, sure, sure.
So yeah, and it wouldn't technically be reasonable to check that because most people would understand. Like if an S is replaced with a Z, most people would understand. But in that circumstance, it's not. We
I
always
agree.
check for it.
Mm-hmm.
So we always check for it. So if like
sure.
In like a situation where like that where we're not, it's not 100% analogous, but like that where you could like calculably, where you could like check if you have a susceptibility to a miscarriage, would that not be negligence to not check?
I think if you checked for it and you saw that it was a thing, then perhaps it could be negligence. But I don't think you could say not checking for that thing is negligence. Sort of like how
wait, hold up. Would it be manslaughter if they checked, knew, and still had a baby? Would that be manslaughter?
It could potentially be, yeah, depending on the condition.
You would charge a woman for having like a disease that has
Potentially, if you had a condition where you got pregnant and then all of your babies died, and then you're like, all right, great, let's go get pregnant. Then that's potentially manslaughter, sure.
All right, how about how about a situation where like there's a increased chance of babies dying?
If we just artificially inflate it to say that it's a super unreasonably high chance, then sure, I would grant you that at some point we would call it negligence.
All right. So what you're saying is that you would imprison women for having a disease which leads them to have a higher chance of miscarriage?
I'm saying at some point, if we inflated this hypothetical risk, and then a woman took that risk and intentionally got pregnant, then I would potentially look at legal problems. Yeah, just like if you had a baby and then you drank a bunch, knowing that you could give it fetal alcohol syndrome, like potentially, yes, you could be in trouble for that because that's kind of screwed up.
Legal
I mean, don't you
problems?
agree? Yeah, sure.
Well,
don't
yeah,
you agree?
Like, wait, yeah, sure. Wait, hold on.
Like if a lady got pregnant and then she did a bunch of meth, knowing that would cause the baby to be born with severe problems for the rest of his life, like, shouldn't we look into that at least? Shouldn't we look at punishing that?
Sure, but
because I don't.
Sure, but like I don't care right now. It's not what I'm
Okay,
trying to get.
so like, why is the inverse a
What-
problem then?
Wait, hold up. Wait. What I'm saying here is that sorry. No, I don't think we should imprison women for that. I think that should be discouraged, but I don't think that we should imprison people for that.
Well, I'm
think
not
that
saying
would-
always yes, 100% positive, punish all women who do this. I'm saying that there is a point at which we would look at doing it.
At which point, Brittell?
Well, I haven't
Just
thought
for the
about it.
thrill
It's
of
your
it?
hypothetical, but I'm saying at some point of the risk, like, let's just converge on 100% and say if you have a 99.9999% chance that your baby will die, then don't go having babies. Otherwise,
I
legal
don't wait.
trouble.
Hold up. I don't hold up. I don't think. Wait. Isn't that like a positive? Isn't that like a positive right there to say that like babies are owed that? Using your framework, I would say that
Well,
no matter
Yeah.
what the mother does, we should allow her to do so because the government can't infringe on the mother's right to access to drugs.
to access the drugs, sure, yeah, unless there's some sort of externality that would happen on somebody else. Like if you did a bunch of drugs and then like beat up a guy, that's a problem.
Well,
Mhm.
yeah, unless it's an externality that would happen onto someone else.
Or if you got drunk and passed out and then you didn't feed your baby and you starved to death.
But what you have already admitted is that a baby has a special status in which it is connected to the mother. So all of its circumstances are related directly to what the mother does. But you would not suspend some government oversight of the mother because the mother is holding the baby. You would not suspend any sort of government oversight to it.
Mhm.
So what I would say is, no matter what the mother does, I would not imprison the mother because they're having a miscarriage.
Wait, what? How did you get there?
Wait. Am I misunderstanding something here? You're saying that
I'm not seeing where you're going.
you're saying that that human rights are all negative, right?
Yeah, human rights. Yes,
are all negative to authority, right?
they're negative. Yeah.
And that includes like the right to get drugs and the right to like do whatever you want unless it infringes upon other humans' rights, right?
Yeah. Adults have the right to hurt themselves if they consent.
Yeah, and a baby cannot, and a baby has, and a baby is not privy to some of the rights that we are due to the fact that it's reliant on the mother.
Well, yeah, the baby can't exercise all its rights. Sure. In fact, nobody can exercise all their rights.
So why can exercise
Like I can't
the right?
exercise my right to drive.
So why can the baby not exercise the right to exercise the right to not get like fetal alcohol syndrome? Why can it?
Sure. Well, that would constitute significant objective harm, which goes back to what I said about the mother consenting on behalf of the child.
Sorry?
So parents can consent on behalf of the children for everything that's not significantly objectively harmful. That's the standard.
Well, there's probably some benefits that come with fetal alcohol syndrome.
So, like, a baby's right to freedom of movement, or let's say a 5-year-old's right to freedom of movement is nullified by the fact that the parent consents on behalf of the child. So the mother can just consent to the baby going somewhere that
how is fetal alcohol syndrome or something like that in a
well, if you let me finish,
universal wrong? Like what? How,
sure.
like,
Well,
yeah.
The distinction is that if a parent consents on behalf of their child to say take them somewhere they don't want to go, then the child's freedom of movement isn't being violated because the child's consenting to go there via proxy of the mother. But if the mother tries to consent to something like fetal alcohol syndrome, then that's a violation of the baby's rights. So the baby has negative rights in both instances. The baby has freedom of movement and the baby has right to life. But in one case, the mother can usurp that. In the other case, it can't because it's significantly objectively harmful.
Wait, so no, you haven't really demonstrated on why it's significantly objectively harmful. I'm sure there's some benefits I could find to fetal alcohol syndrome.
Are you saying fetal alcohol syndrome is not significantly objectively harmful?
Well, it's not. Well, maybe. Wait. So, I wouldn't say objectively. I'd say that there are some benefits potentially. I don't know. I can look into it.
Okay. I mean, I don't know how much you know about it, but I can get you some pictures.
Arguments from disgust are usually very, very stupid. But sure. Whatever. Wait. So even if it could be hypothetically seen as so what if it's seen as objectively better for the baby to die than to live in some way?
Did you say what if it's objectively better for the baby to die?
Yeah. By some framework.
What if? I don't know what you're asking me. Should we kill the baby?
What if the baby would like be suffering through immense poverty and neglect for all of its life? Or go into
I don't think poverty is necessarily immense suffering.
Or
I don't think you can kill poor people.
An adoption agency. How would we go into an adoption system that has a 35%?
I'll save you a lot of time. I'll save you a lot of time in these hypotheticals. If you can just compare it to a baby that's already born and ask me, would you kill this? The answer is the same. So if you're saying something like, what if this baby will be born and he'll feel like he's constantly on fire and then he'll die at the age of 1 and he'll be in agony for a year, then it's like, okay, sure, kill that kid. It's the same as if the kid is alive and he got that condition, like if a kid had chronic on fireness or some weird made up alien disease, then sure, kill it. But if what you're saying is, what if the kid's going to be poor? I don't think we should go around killing poor kids in orphanages, and I don't think we should kill them in the womb either. So that's sort of my answer.
So, well, I've gone out my spiel. I don't really have anything else to go. I don't really have anywhere else to go with this. It's great talking to you, though.
Okay, it was good talking to you.
We've gone on for
thanks for the chat.
Yeah, thanks for chatting.
Okay.
All right.
It was a pleasure.
Cool.
Do we do anything else, or are we just done?
I guess we're done here. Yeah, you two have a good one.
All right. It was a pleasure doing business.
Yep.
Pleasure doing business. Jesus Christ, I was blown the fuck out. I was not expecting that at all. Okay.
Yeah, no, I figured that'd go not so
Dude,
well.
I was completely blown out there.
I was just about to send a message in the chat can we wrap this up in about 15 minutes or something, but then it just ended. So
yeah, I was totally expecting him to just be I was expecting him to have to retreat at some point, but he just grants me that it's a violation of the rights and says we should do something about this. I'm like, I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting him to be a conservative.
Yeah.
I was expecting him to be a